Getting a US passport for a child is quite a similar process as getting one for an adult, but there's a few extra steps. So let's first run through how to get a US passport in general. Getting the US passport is going to be at least an 8 to 11 week process. So how do you get started? First, you have to find the nearest acceptance facility. That's going to be like the post office, the county clerk, the register of deeds. Now, wherever you're going, always make sure you call first to see if you actually need an appointment or not. Now, if you do need an appointment and you get some kind of email confirmation, make sure you bring that information along with you. But it's not just that email confirmation that you're going to need. You're going to actually have the application ready to go. So what you need to do first is go to the U.S. Travel Department website and download Form DS-11 and complete it. Now, if you are renewing your U.S. passport, download DS-82 instead. You're also going to need to collect all the documents that you need to get your U.S. passport, and you need to have photocopies of every document as well. So first off, you need to prove you're a citizen, and you can do that with one of the following. You can either use a previous undamaged passport, you can use your original birth certificate with all the relevant details required on the DS-11. You can use a consular report of birth abroad if you were born outside the United States, or you can use the certificate of naturalization or citizenship. Next, you're going to have to prove your identity, and you can do that with either a driver's license, a passport booker card, you can use a military ID, or again, you can also use your certificate of naturalization or citizenship. So you're also going to need a color photo. Now, there's some very specific requirements for this. It has to be a 2x2-inch photo. Your face must be forward, and from chin to crown, your face must take up 1 to 1 3/8 of an inch within that photo. You can't be wearing any glasses or hats unless you have a signed statement about some kind of religious exemption or a verified medical reason for not being able to remove either your hat or your glasses. Now, you must have a plain white or off-white background. You can't have any military green shirts on, and also you can only put it on matte or glossy photo quality paper. Now, of course, you have to make sure you actually pay all the fees as well for your U.S. passport book. That's going to cost you $110 with an additional $35 that goes to the acceptance facility as an execution fee. You'll also see that there's an option for a passport card that only costs $30 as compared to the $110 for the U.S. passport book. But do you really need a passport card? Let's dive into that real quick. So what is the passport card? Well, if you ask the United States government, they're going to tell you that the passport card is a wallet-sized travel document that can only be used to re-enter the United States at land border crossings and sea ports of entry from Canada, Mexico, places in the Caribbean, and Bermuda. Now, the card provides a less expensive, smaller, and convenient alternative to the passport book for those who travel frequently to these destinations by land or by sea, and the passport card cannot be used for international travel by air. So specifically, this card was designed for people who live near the northern or southern borders of the United States. They either travel frequently for work between the two countries, or they visit family on both sides quite often. Here are reasons you might actually want to get the U.S. passport card. So number one is that you don't actually plan on flying anywhere internationally. If you are going to be getting on a plane and going to another country, yes, you need your passport book, but if you're just driving to Canada or driving to Mexico or taking a cruise down to Bermuda, you're only going to need a U.S. passport card in that case. Number two is that you only plan on traveling between North America, the Caribbean, and Bermuda. You can't go any farther than that with the U.S. passport card, but if you don't plan on it, then why spend the extra money on the U.S. passport book? Number three is that the U.S. passport card can be used as an extra form of ID. So let's say you are going traveling, you're flying to another country, you have your passport book, you might want to get that U.S. passport card and spend that extra $30 just to have that extra form of ID. Let's say you lose your passport on the road, it's going to be a lot easier to get another one if you already have your U.S. passport card on you. Number five is that it's super compact and it really easily fits in your wallet. Now, if you're going to be traveling with a U.S. passport book, you can see how this does not fit in a wallet. It's hardly going to fit in your pocket. It's not very discreet. It's very obvious when you're walking around with it, and it's not something you'd want to lose or drop or anything like that. So having something that's a little bit more secure in that U.S. passport card might be a good idea. Now, whether you actually need the passport card or not, you're going to have to pay when you apply no matter what. So if you're applying at one of the acceptance facilities, you're going to need a check or money order made out to the U.S. Department of State. If you're applying at a passport agency, you can use check, money order, credit card, or even cash there as well. And if you're outside of the US and applying for your passport, well, then just check with the consulate or embassy that you're applying at for their fee structures. Now, if you have everything ready, you have all your documents, you have all your photocopies, you have your money all ready, the last thing you need to do is just go to your appointment, and if all is well, you should expect your US passport in 8 to 11 weeks. So in general, that's how you're going to get a US passport, but when you're getting one for a child, the rules are going to vary slightly according to the child's age. A lot of the times your children are going to be under 16 years old, so when signing the documentation, if a child cannot sign on their own, the parent must print the child's name, sign their own name, and include the relationship between the child and the adult in parentheses. Moreover, you're going to have to go in for an interview, and both parents are going to have to go along with the child, and you have to bring in your IDs along with photocopies. Now, there are some times where both parents don't have to come in, and that could be in the case of a divorce or, say, one of the parents has deceased. If only one parent can attend the interview for whatever reason, there's a few things that you may actually need. First off may be Form DS-3053 that you can download, or a notarized written statement from the other parent that's less than 3 months old, signed and notarized on the same day, along with a photocopy front and back of that parent's ID. If you can't get that because the parent's deceased, you can just bring along the death certificate of the other parent. That's acceptable as well. However, there are people out there who are like me, who are single parents and have sole custody of their child. And if that's the case, you either need to bring in the court order or the birth certificate that has only one parent listed. Lastly, if both parents are alive and they're still together, but one parent can't make it to the interview for whatever reason, you can bring in a written statement under the penalty of perjury, mind you, or Form DS-5525 that will explain in detail why the second parent can't attend the interview. Now, for any child who's trying to get a U.S. passport book, they have to have evidence of citizenship for the child as well. So you can either bring in a previous undamaged passport, you can bring in a certificate of naturalization or citizenship. You can also bring in the original birth certificate with all the relevant details required by the DS-11, or you can bring in the consular report of birth abroad. Now, what if your child is not under the age of 16? They're either 16 or 17, because once they get above that age, they can just apply for their own passport. But 16 and 17-year-olds can also theoretically apply for a passport by themselves as well. And that's because the State Department is a little bit more lenient on those requests. Now, the State Department wants to know that the 16 and 17-year-old has permission of at least one of their parents to get their passport. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. You can either, one of the parents can come into the interview and that will suffice. You can send in a signed letter as well, or you can just send in proof that the parent is actually paying for the passport. And while sometimes just that letter may be enough to satisfy the State Department that a parent knows that the child is getting their passport, they still retain the right to request Form DS-3053, which is basically a notarized statement of consent of issuance of the U.S. passport. So if you want to know the fastest way to get a U.S. passport, just click this video right here.